Some people on the left really are scumbags. Take the New York Times, for example. The highly educated, very indoctrinated sheep who work at this sad excuse for a news outlet portrayed an evil man as a leader, while on the same day portraying a leader as an evil man. The left's arguments and stances on, well, pretty much everything might seem crazy because they've run out of any and all arguments that could ever have been considered somewhat rational. They've essentially become like rats. When they're trapped, they'll do anything to get out and get their way. Hey everybody, thanks for coming back and joining me for the first Out of Left Field of 2020 for MRC-TV. I'm Nick Kangadis. Conservative journalist Stephen Miller noticed something peculiar, but not all that surprising, on the New York Times obituary Twitter page on Tuesday. Two obits stood out, one for Iranian leader and terrorist murderer of Americans, Iranians, as well as anyone else from any country that didn't bend the knee, Qassem Soleimani. The other was a decently successful former NFL coach, Sam Wyche. Guess who got the more benign caption for their obituary? If you guessed Soleimani, you were right. The Times referred to Soleimani as the, quote, master of Iran's intrigue and force, unquote, whatever the hell that means. Wyche, on the other hand, was correctly noted as, quote, the last coach to lead the Cincinnati Bengals to the Super Bowl, unquote. But as the Times tends to do, they focused on the negative by noting an incident in which Wyche was actually trying to prevent his players and female reporters from any controversy by barring female reporters from the locker room following a loss in 1990 to the Seattle Seahawks. The Times wrote in Wyche's obit that while he was the last coach to lead the Bengals to the Super Bowl, he, quote, was later fined by the National Football League for barring a female reporter from the team's locker room, unquote. So instead of Wyche being remembered for being a decently successful NFL coach in the 80s and 90s, people not in the know will now remember him for being some kind of, I don't know, misogynist monster. Newsflash, New York Times, the only monster out of these two men was Soleimani. He literally had thousands of people killed, including Americans and his own Iranian people. Now, folks, I always tell people not to watch the news and don't read any mainstream news outlet without a healthy dose of skepticism. I'm in this business and I can tell you that, typically, whatever I am forced to hear or read from the media, I usually believe the opposite. They don't have your best interests at heart. They have the lining of their pockets in mind instead. We're just supposed to be the stooges who blindly believe what we're given, be thankful that they give it to us, and then ask for more. In light of that, and the story I described to you just a little bit ago, let me give all of you my 2 cents on Soleimani. I understand that the left is currently standing up for terrorists and terrorist regimes simply because they can't get over the fact that their gal lost in 2016. Now, I can't make this clearer. Soleimani, I'm glad he's dead. And judging by President Trump's statement that Soleimani had plans to attack Americans in the upcoming months,
in recent days, he was planning new attacks on American targets, but we stopped him.
Everyone else should be too. This was not a good human being. Honestly, he should have been killed sooner. But we had an apologist to the Islamic world in the White House for 8 years, so the country was lacking a backbone. I feel so strongly about Soleimani's death being the right thing in the end that if by some devil-sponsored miracle this guy came back to life, I'd want the US to kill him again, throw a 10-minute party, get over it, and then move on to the next fundamentalist that truly deserves meeting his maker. I know that sounds pretty strong, but don't you feel better after you get that out? Listen, I don't want war. I'd love for everyone around the world to live in peace. I really would. But I'm realistic enough to understand that's not going to happen. Worthless pieces of trash like Soleimani are unfortunately always going to exist. When everyone can grow up, put their hatred for Trump aside, and understand that the leadership in Iran has always wanted to kill Americans, at least in the last 40, 50 years, and yes, that includes the leftists that defend them, the better off this world will be. I don't want war. Let me reiterate that. I don't want war. I don't think we should be the world's police, though. Most countries already built the US for millions, if not billions of dollars. So why can't they use that money and help themselves? I think it's time to either hold those countries to that or cut them off. Sorry, world. We hope you do well. We really do. But it'd be nice if any of you countries that we give so much money to without a thank you in the world ever wish the same for us without wanting something in return. As for the New York Times, don't worry about them. Their paper, along with the Washington Post, basically isn't worth lining a birdcage with. They're losing readership despite their best attempts to brainwash people by employing the same communistic tactics that they have for the last century. Now that's all I have for this week, folks. I'm gonna go cool off. Let me know your take in the comments below. I typically respond to a comment here and there, so I'd really like to hear your thoughts. And if you like this video, don't forget to share it. That's the best way to let us know that you want MRC-TV to keep these videos coming. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit that notification bell so that YouTube might actually let you know when MRC-TV comes out with a new video. They don't always do that for me. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram and Twitter. For MRC-TV, I'm Nick Kangadis.